Hey there. Thanks for hanging out with K-Dubs and listening to the podcast. Much appreciated. Check us out on YouTube. Shoot us an email. Let us know how we're doing. Hanging out with kdubs@gmail.com. And as always, enjoy the next episode. All right, let's rock this thing. Tyler, welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to come over here and enjoy some whiskey and sit down and talk a bunch of shit in front of a camera and on a microphone. And
That's okay. I tell everybody, if we're going to talk farming, you better buckle up because we're going to be here a while.
That's all right. I got all night. I don't really care. As long as we don't run out of alcohol, we'll be fine.
We'll should be set.
So, brought you here because you have a pretty awesome story, I think. You obviously grew up on a small farm outside of town here, and you went to college and became my lawyer.
Yeah.
Not just mine, but a lot of people. So I kind of want to dig into that a little bit on how, what's your thought process was like. Did you know you were going to do this in high school?
No, not in high school. So we'll go way back. So when
Let's go way back.
When I was a kid, we were in the ready mix business and gravel mining. And I would go over to my grandmother's and, well, Tyler, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it was, well, I can't decide. I'm either going to be a ready mix truck driver or a lawyer. And she kind of looks at me funny, and she goes, well,
it's kind of a...
Yeah, right? I mean, not...
A little bit different in the pendulum swing
right.
there.
She goes, well, if you're a lawyer, then you can do the ready mix thing on the side if you want to. And I think that's where the seed was kind of cast. So I never thought much more about it in high school. And actually, when I got done with high school, I wanted to go into ag engineering. So we fabricable, about anything we can. So
well, yeah, you guys are really good at fixing equipment, especially older equipment that doesn't have a lot of technology on it. You guys are just, what the hell you're doing when it comes to that, or you're like, yeah, we can make that work.
We can make that work. Yeah, if there's a welder, there's a way.
Absolutely.
That's what I always say. So I thought, well, I can do this, so let's do this on a big boy scale, and go into the engineering field. I looked at University of Nebraska in Lincoln. They had a power technology engineering department. They got the Nebraska tractor testing lab, all that stuff. And it was neat, and that's where I thought it was headed. So, but at the time I was farming full time, going to high school and then farming and stuff. And at that point we were out of the business, and it's a 4-H project that got way out of hand. So I kind of got into it.
Yeah, because at that point in time you guys got out of the mining, right?
Yep. We had been out, and we were in 4-H, and it all started with a neighbor had a prolapse cow, and I got a calf from him, and next thing you know, I'm in 4-H, and I love farming. So,
damn neighbor.
I know, and then I started making a little hay on the summers, and here we are today.
Yep.
So at that point, we turned around, and in high school, my senior year, I broke and dislocated my ankle playing basketball. And so my sports career, whatever that was, was over. So at that point, I really started.
We all had a phenomenal sports career. Not to interrupt you, but we really did. I mean, we were all stars. We were going places.
Right. And it was okay. Well, that's done. That's out. So now I got more time on my hands. I'm not going to practices, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided I was going to be more professional in my farming. Let's put it that way. So as a senior in high school, now I'm looking at seed books and I'm doing applications on where I'm going to put what.
You're learning.
Yeah.
You're learning hardcore now.
Yeah, right. Jumping into it. And, I'm farming every 2 and 5 acre piece behind somebody's home that I can get your taxes down, So
I can lower your taxes if you let me farm that.
So, it's all, I don't know. Today, I guess we'd look at it and call it garbage ground, but it was a place to start in high school, A
lot of people started there.
I don't know what else you do. So we got after it. And at that point, I'm like, well, I'm not going to go away to school. I'll go to MCC. So I went to the community college for 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it was my first year at community college. I'm taking all the math courses, and I realized I don't want to be an engineer anymore. So at this point, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, well, maybe I'll just stay home and farm. So that the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, I had to have back surgery. So
Really?
yeah,
I didn't know that.
I had 2 herniated discs. So I was sleeping on the living room floor.
Lower back, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yep. L4, L5, I think.
I was gonna say L3, L4. That just was my normal guess, but
well, so
I
sleeping
didn't
on
know
the floor,
that.
standing up in the back of classroom, type of like sciatica's just killing me. So I'm like, you know what? I don't know if farming's going to be a great idea for you long term. Kind of a smart guy, probably should keep going to school. So at that point, I'm riding on the tractor. I still had an AM radio. It was the only thing I had on the fender.
On the fender there?
1466.
Yeah.
Mowing hay every day, And I listen to a lot of talk radio. And so, I get to listening to these attorneys and analysts that come on and this kind of stuff. And at the time, there were some constitutional changes in the United States as far as questions of what was constitutional, what was not. And at that time, it was regarding healthcare. So I'm like, you know what, that's kind of interesting.
Was that not to interrupt you, was that when you had to start showing the government on your tax returns that you had healthcare all year long? Was that when that started?
It would have been, it would have been the 2008 Obamacare era.
Gotcha.
Right? So
Gotcha.
there was all these questions about, well, what's constitutional, what's not, and then they'd say, well, no, it's a, taxing issue.
Yeah, I'm not trying to get political.
No.
I just didn't. That was the time when you were listening to all this.
Yes, right, and listening to what's going on around me. So I'm like, you know what, a constitutional lawyer, that'd be interesting. And then I thought about it longer, and I said, well, how many constitutional lawyers are there out there in the world? There's not many. So if you want to do that, there's a lot of them, but you gotta work at it, and you're probably not going to get paid well to do it until you're at that level, So then I got to thinking about it more. The lawyer thing again, it kind of reared its head, and it was that, well, if you want to be a lawyer, then you could farm too, Now I'm not a ready-mix truck driver, but maybe, you could farm,
It's a good trade-off.
Yeah, you could have enough time to be able to do
You can have it all, Tyler.
So that was kind of the new goal, and I got to thinking about it and talking with some folks, and is there really attorneys in our area that are agriculturally based or have that kind of a background or know what you're talking about? So the answer I resoundingly got was no.
No, besides you now, I don't know of one.
And
I'm not saying that there's not a lawyer in the area that could squeak by and accomplish what they want to accomplish, but who's not fluent with farming, understanding farming, the business end of it and the consumer end of it. All of that.
You got it. And that's it. There's a lot of good attorneys. So I'm now an attorney, and I work in a very good office, and I run into a lot of good attorneys. But as far as being able to pick it up and run and the dialect and just know what goes on, this is what goes on paper, and then this is what goes on in the world, right?
Yep.
So, the last thing that stuck with me was I don't want to go into an attorney's office, spend 2 hours explaining to them what my problem is, and walk out and them not know what my business looks like.
Yeah, right.
At all.
Right.
So, then you get the Mike Bloomberg thing. You just push the seed in the ground and push some dirt over it and wait.
Call it a day.
Yeah, right. So, welcome to farming.
Hope for the best.
Yeah.
It'll grow.
I
got faith.
So, so at that point, I decided, well, I wanted to be an attorney. So, my what would be junior year, I transferred out and went to Hillsdale College in Michigan. It's a very small liberal arts school. They're one of, I think, 3 that don't take any of the federal money. So
interesting.
Like FAFSA, that kind of stuff, they don't federally backed student loans. They don't take.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So and the education that you get there is probably an Ivy League education, but at half the price because they know they have to be competitive in the market because
they don't take that.
You have to foot it, or private loans or grants or whatever. From their people. So, did that, got a good education. That's a political economy major. So politics, economics, history, right? So really well-rounded, which is kind of my, jack of all trades, master of none. And
the wearer of many hats.
Well, and the thing to remember with that is there's more to that saying. And it's, but better than a master of one.
That's true.
So I always say, hey, you need to add that last part. Don't leave me hanging.
That's your motto now.
Right. So from there, it was going to law school. So, okay, now where do you look? And, easy option would have been like NIU, something close. So I could keep farming.
So this was after you went to, you got your curriculars done then?
Yep.
At the local. And then you went up to?
Hillsdale in Michigan.
And how long were you up there for?
2 years.
Okay, so were you staying up there full time,
No.
or were you coming back and
Yeah.
forth? Oh, you were traveling.
Yeah. So there's 16 weeks in a semester, and I would say for the 2 years I was there and the 3 years I was in law school, 13 out of 16 weeks I'd be driving back and forth. So I
You just love playing with tractors, don't you?
I do. So the old Dodge trucks got bombed in the weeds and sidelined, and I bought a little Volkswagen diesel. And,
meep.
Yep, and just burned back and forth.
40 miles of the gallon and let her ride.
5 hours each way. So, and, I would try and stack my classes so that I could either get off early on Friday or maybe
late
have
Monday
Fridays
or
off.
something.
Or late Monday, right? And I'd come home and I'd farm all weekend and then go back. So then you're cramming in school and
everything else to go with it.
Coursework and, all the others. So you just pounded in and got it done. So so I finished up in Michigan and then
You said couple years up there, right?
2 years.
2 years up there.
Yep. So they had a huge course. So some of that.
So was that like a bachelor's then when you were done?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yep, nope.
But that was like a bachelor's then when you were done up there?
Bachelor's
and then
in
you
arts.
decided, okay, now on to the good one.
Yeah, right. And I had some opportunity to stay up in Michigan or northern Indiana or, kind of anything in politics. At that point, that's kind of their branding is political and economy and that kind of stuff. So you've got a very conservative fan base, I guess, let's say, for the college. And
makes sense.
They'll hire based on that. So I had that opportunity, and, I never even opened the door, really, to see what was there. Because I knew I didn't want to get away from Illinois, right? So we live here.
The great state of Illinois.
Yes, the great state of Illinois. I'm here to help. But I've always decided that I was going to come back, right? Because it's home,
It is home.
And you and I were talking earlier, and it's the people, I think. It's not, we've got great weather overall. We're in kind of that breadbasket of the United States. Illinois.
Well, the breadbasket's like 2 hours south. That's the breadbasket. But we're at, we get a little bit of everything.
Well, that's just it. Yeah.
We get a little bit of Wisconsin. We got a little bit of Iowa. We got a little bit of central Illinois, a little bit of central Indiana, and everything in between.
Well, and I always figure, you're 5 minutes to town or 10 minutes to town in Harvard. They got everything you need. If you go to either Rockford or Crystal Lake, right, what are you, half hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Everything you could really want.
And the healthcare. I mean, we got Chicago, Madison, Milwaukee, Rockford. Go anywhere in an hour direction, and you have some of the best medical care, in my opinion, in the United States.
Right. And that's what makes McHenry County
unique.
And now, I'm going to get on my McHenry County's great soapbox.
Woo!
But I really do think that we're in a location where you can have kind of the best of all worlds. So, and that should be the same for the state. I mean, we've got rail lines and waterways and interstates, and we're the center of the spokes of the country, right? It should be the greatest state in the nation, and we're here
someday, maybe.
Yeah, right. so you decide to come back. So anyway.
Yeah, we got a little off topic there. That's all right.
That's all right. So, we get to looking at where am I going to go to law school? So, eye on the prize. Don't think about the other things you could go do. Just where are you going to go? And I started looking at schools that had actual ag law programs. And there's three at the time in the nation. Vermont, which was more of a food and law program. It was more about USDA labeling and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
The food end of it. Then
the food retail end of it.
More or less. There was
packaging and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
It was more that end.
So like a Tyson's food would probably hire a lawyer that came from there.
Yeah.
To handle their distribution and labeling and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because that riddled with regulation, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then University of Arkansas, I went down and I looked at that one, which, man, they are really proud of being from Arkansas. No offense to anybody from Arkansas, but they're really proud of it.
I don't think I have any listeners from there yet.
You know, it's a shame. You see all those old 7140 Magnums sitting in the weeds, and you're like, I'll take you home with me. You know, I'll save you. So, which I just did save one from Arkansas.
Did you really?
Winter, so, knock on wood, it's holding up. So
one in a row, right?
Yeah. So, and their program is really a master's in law. So it's a very gen ed 3-year law program. But then if you want to spend more money and go another 2 years, you can get the master's, or maybe it's only a year after that. But
whatever.
It's a master's. Okay, great. If you want to, teach or something like that, it's a great place to go. And then there's the one that I picked, and that was Drake University Law School. So,
and that's located where?
In Des Moines, Iowa.
Gotcha.
So they actually have an ag law program. So I went and I looked at it, and I met the head of the department and stuff, and it was very intriguing. They covered all the things that I wanted to cover. They covered ag contracting. We covered drainage, covered farm bill, that kind of stuff. There was a lot of the food labeling and that kind of information. And then all your gen eds, your estate planning, your standard contracts, so you know what? It worked. And it was in Iowa, and everybody's very hog heavy.
Yeah, and that's not too awful far from here.
Right. Well, 5 hours door to door. So both ways. I went east 5 hours door to door. I went west 5 hours door to door, and the Volkswagen would make it, So that's what I did. And the same thing. I kept driving home every weekend, or almost every weekend, and farming too. So getting your crops out and getting your crops in.
How did you balance all that? I mean, I know it's an impossible question to ask, right? But as you're sitting there and you're traveling to Iowa and home every weekend, which is 5 hours, so you got 10 hours in 3 days that you're going to be traveling. I mean, when you were studying for stuff, did you have like video cassette tapes you can put in the car, CDs, or I mean, nowadays you can put it all on your phone, but
right,
and listen to it like what do they call those, audiobooks or whatever?
So not really. And for a while there, the Volkswagen, I didn't even have the dash installed in it. I lost the dash when I was out in Michigan, and the only guy I could find to fix it was a guy in Kentucky. So I had to mail him my dash and hope that it returned. So I didn't have a speedo, I didn't have a fuel gauge, I didn't have, the radio wouldn't work because of that. Like, it was great. And
it was great.
And
that was probably a long period of time, but it seemed a lot longer without it.
Well, and so when I went away, I didn't chew, I didn't anything. So I'm chewing gum, I'm snacking, whatever you could do to try and stay awake, because you're working 2 full-time jobs and taking 5 hours shot driving each way.
Yep.
Well, there's only so much coffee you can drink. So when I was in college doing this, I would drink like 2.5 pots of coffee a day.
Jesus.
And it was, it was a lot of work, and you had to stay awake and you had to keep pounding. So I started chewing when I was driving back and forth. So I finally kicked that habit, in 2 years, and they got other products now, so you're,
good
Zen packs and whatever. So, but that was what I
got you by.
Crutched on, to stay awake, to get you back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything comes at a cost, I guess. The love of farming.
Yeah, the whole I can't stay awake, and I need to find something to stay awake just to keep me moving.
Yeah,
that's how I started. And I have a couple chews every now and then or something, but really it's been like 2.5 years for me.
Yeah.
And I basically don't have anything at all. So that's a tough habit though. It's a tough habit to kick.
Right. And I tell them, once you pick that up, you're stuck with it.
I actually ended up coming down with COVID, and then I couldn't keep nothing down. I got the stomach flu that time too. And I was like,
done.
This is it's going to happen now.
Sure.
So I did, yeah, whatever. 4 or 5 days later, I was like, all right, I guess I kicked it, so we're good. Moving on.
More money in your pocket again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't even know what's a cost nowadays. Do you need?
I don't even know. Well, and when I was going to Iowa, the state of Iowa is lower in taxes than the state of Illinois generally, except for the sin tax. So, liquor and tobacco.
Wisconsin, I think, it's the same way, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you get to the point to where if you're going back out there, all right, I got to load up. I got to buy 2 large of chew and
all right,
a case of beer.
I got 15 minutes before I get to the border. There's a gas station right before I get there. I'm loading up right there.
Yep, and away you go. And then you ride for another week, and then you come back. You know, so so I was out there doing all my law work and farming still, and then I guess my last semester out there, I worked for the state of Iowa FSA office.
Okay.
So division of the USDA, but their Iowa state office. And
Gotcha.
I worked in compliance regulation, conservation compliance regulation. So, it's CRP programs and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was really interesting because we don't farm in the program. So we're outside of the program. So I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to the program, right? But that was very interesting because I actually got to see it from the other side, right? And what they're looking for in forms and requirements and on and on and on and on.
Gotcha.
So, which has been great because now when you're representing clients and you're dealing with that,
you know what you're looking at.
Right. You know what's on the other side of this.
Yep.
So, that's been an opportunity that my farming hasn't given me, but through that I see that too. So then I came back and so you graduate in the spring and they have 2 sets of the bar. So you can either take the bar in the summertime or you can take the bar in January, I think it is. And I knew that I was never going to be able to be locked in a house trying to study for this bar exam while there's hay to be made outside and crops to be sprayed and everything else. So all my other classmates, are out, studying for the bar, taking the bar exam, becoming attorneys, the whole song
in June or July or whatever it is.
Yep. I think they take it in July, so then by September. And I didn't. I decided I was going to farm that year. So I just kept farming. And then I got a call from a law firm where I work now, Zank, Cohen, Wright, and Saladin in Crystal Lake.
Say that one more time.
Zank, Cohen, Wright, and Saladin.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy name to remember.
Yeah, just rolls right off the tongue. I called a guy back the other day, and this is Tyler from Zank, Cohen, Wright, and Saladin, giving you a call back. He goes, man, that's a mouthful. Yeah.
I think all lawyers' offices are that way, though, aren't they? They got like 4 names or 5 names that are all involved. And
hey, as long as it's not Howard Fine and Howard, right?
Good call. Good point.
So they called me, and this is probably in October, and said, hey, we heard you're local and you got set for the bar, and would you want to come and interview with us? And my response was, well, I'm out combining today, but give me a couple of weeks. I should be wrapped up, and then I'll come in and I'd love to talk to you. So I went and I interviewed, and they said, well, if you want to come to work for us, you can come study now over the winter. And I sat in an office where I'm at now, studied for the bar exam, took it in January, started working for them as a clerk, and then
once everything went through, then
March, I think, it came through. I've been an attorney ever since.
So I gotta pick your brain on the bar because, I mean, obviously there's a bunch of lawyer shows out there and they always talk about the bar, but obviously it's a test, right?
Yep.
It's the test of all tests, it seems like. Now, the bar that you took, because obviously that's the only one that you know, is that strictly for the ag lawyer thing, or is the bar everything lawyerish all in one?
You got it. So
bar, you have to learn everything basically when it comes to be a lawyer. In case this don't work out and you want to go be a divorce lawyer, then you need to know all the divorce laws, right?
So if you're an attorney, then you can do anything an attorney can do, right? So you can represent your clients, you can be in front of the court, you can Ada. So and based on that, it's your admission to the bar. So I can't go to court in Iowa because I'm not a member of the Iowa Bar Association, and I'm not licensed through their bar, but I'm licensed through the Illinois bar. So, and that's the same way. An attorney from Iowa can't come in here and
so each
practice.
State has their own
bar
test to take.
Yes. So there are different requirements. So you can, if you've been practicing, I think it's 5 years, there's a reciprocity that if you may not have to take their bar exam, but you have to still comply with their continuing education credits, or,
Gotcha.
If you're in good standing, they may let you into their bar. Usually they charge you more for being an out-of-state bar member, that kind of thing.
Yay.
Within that first, I think it's 5 years, you have to take the bar exams. So if I wanted to be an attorney in Wisconsin, then I've got to take that bar. So in our office, we have a couple of attorneys that are barred in both Wisconsin and Illinois. So if I get a client that comes in and, my farmers, right, and especially here in the state line area, right, we buy a farm across the way.
Line.
Yep. I tell them I can't represent you on that one, but I've got a guy in the office that can. So and usually what ends up happening is I do like the farm side of it. They do the legal side of it.
Yeah.
Right. So, because you know how it goes when you're buying a farm. It's not only, is the deed correct? Is the legal description correct? Is there a lease? Is there a long-term lease? Have they given proper notice?
Is it owned? Is it not owned? Is
right.
it still?
What do we got for tile? What do we got for drainage? What do we got for wetlands? Is this in the farm program? Have they done the work that's compliant?
Blah, 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 blah.
You got it. So, and that's the kind of stuff that I really get into. So usually anything ag-based, I'll touch, so, and that's not,
well, that's what you specialized in.
Right. And that's what I specialized in. But getting back to, I guess, your overall point with the bar exam is on everything that's general. So, if you were to take the SAT, ACT?
Yep.
Right? So
yep.
It's math and English and science.
It's everything all in
right.
one.
But it's the gen eds, right? It's
Correct.
not any of your
specialties.
We took shop, right? And there's nothing on there, ACT, about a shop class.
Correct.
Right? So the bar is the same thing, but for lawyers. So it's torts, which is, slip and fall and
suing somebody,
battery and assault, and,
gotcha.
Those kind of things, right? Then there's the criminal law division. There's family law, which is your divorce and that kind of stuff. Estate planning, wills, trusts, those kind of things. Ethics is on there. We take a separate ethics exam, so that's a separate exam from it, but there's always an ethics component to the bar exam. So you take all those gen eds, and you have to know all of it. And you can't kind of know all of it. You have to actually know enough about it. Right. So I had never taken a family law class in my life because I have no interest in practicing in family law. The closest I get is occasionally doing a prenuptial agreement because it's related to agriculture. Other than that, I'm out. I don't blame you. Got attorneys for that, right?
And I don't blame you either.
It's not me. So, but there's nothing on there about drainage law or anything that's really
I didn't know how in depth that got. I mean, whenever you hear about the bar, you think, and when I think of the bar, I think of the hardest test that's ever given in the world. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know the answer to that, but that's what I think of. Yeah. So when I think of that, I'm like, well, geez, what does it all include? Like, is it everything, or is it just general stuff, or is it a little bit of specialty in every? There's specialty questions all the way through it.
Right, and so the first day, God, you asked me to remember that far back. So
because that was just 20 years ago.
Well,
Tyler.
No, but it's one of those things, you get it done and you move on.
Yeah.
Oh, I passed it. Good.
I can almost see a shudder over there when I'm like, so I got some questions on the bar. I can almost see a shudder a little bit.
So the first day is all multiple choice. So, okay, multiple choice. Take the test. Use the test, take the test, right? Think about how the test is written. Okay, you can get through that. Then the second day, I think it's the second day, is all
So wait,
Like-
this is like
It's a 2-day exam.
what, 8 hours exam or 4 hours or?
It's not that long. I would say I think it's 6 the first day, 4 the second.
Holy hell!
I think. See, and this is how much I passed and I moved on. You know. So, it's downtown Chicago, and stayed in a hotel, and better make it there on time. And if you're not in your seat, you might miss it, and proctor might not let you in. And I mean, it's an exam. Yeah, and it's strict. So, okay, so then the next day is all, question and answer, like written essay answer. So, and they give you some big long problem set, and you have to pick out. Tell me what it is. Well, now you're picking out everything. Old lady's dog crosses road, car hits something, dog bites somebody else, but in the meantime, 2 states away, a product that was supposed to be delivered but can't because we're involved in the accident, and blah 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 blah. Okay, tell me.
Oh my God!
What legal issues are posed? Okay, great. So
hopefully they can read my handwriting. It's gonna look a lot like a doctor over here.
Well,
scribble.
it's, doctors, lawyers, right? It don't. So
it's like, yeah, that looks right.
Yeah,
can't read it, but it looks good.
Close enough. So, so then you take the bar exam, and then you get admitted to the bar. So,
now you can officially practice law.
And then, yeah, right. Now you can officially practice law. They give you a nice little number, and away you go. Now you've got to continue your education. So they're on a
I'm sure
2-year
that
rolling base.
Yeah, I'm sure that never stops because laws change all the time. They add new laws in. You need to know all that.
Yep. And you're responsible for it.
I think nursing and doctors are that way too in the healthcare.
Yep.
They got to continue to get better all the time because there's different methods and different ways they do things. And
yep. And the CLEs come from everywhere, right? So whether it's a special interest group that's doing them, I just took one that was on trucking. It was about prosecution. It was from a prosecutors bar association from out east, and it was about trucking prosecutions and CDL requirements and that kind of stuff. So, okay, kind of off the wall, right? Not a general thing. And then you'll get that. What's new in the law, right? Our bar, McHenry County Bar Association, their first one out of the gate every year is what's new in January. Because you know how it goes. January 1st, all the laws change.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of our judges put that one on this year. So there's a wide range of what you can do and what you can get education credits for. So I've gone to the American Ag Law Association. They do a roving one. It's an association of ag lawyers.
Okay.
And it covers everything that's agricultural law. I mean, from the simple, not so simple, but simple estate planning, business. What do you want, an LLC? Do you want a C Corp? What do you want? To new and upcoming farm bill, to food packaging, to international
it covers a lot
trade.
of stuff.
I mean, drainage. The new Army Corps. I was there probably 3 years ago, and that was the topic. Was Army Corps. What can they do? What can't they do? WOTUS, water. The waters of the U.S.
They're a pain in the ass. That's what I know.
Well, it's all changing again. So
is it really?
Yeah, buckle up. I don't think they've finalized the new rule yet, but I've been following that. But now, actually, for agriculture, we might actually get some reprieve. So, in the past, there's been a jurisdictional question between Army Corps and USDA.
Correct.
Right. So, and whether it's a farmed wetlands or prior converted, right? When we talk ag world, we want to know, is that a farm wetlands or prior converted? And based on that,
can I tile it or can I not?
Yeah, right. Can I put new tile it, or does it have to be the same?
Exactly.
So, and
or am I just repairing tile?
Right. Because we're trying to work within the law. We know, this is what our rules are. These are how our benefits are going to be withheld or not. So we want to make sure we do this correctly.
Because it costs way too much money to not do it correctly.
And so we go, and I've had this, client will fill out an 80-1026, and I go out there, and they get NRCS to go out there, and then they wait 9 months and come back, and, oh, yeah, you're fine. And the next thing you know, you get a very nasty gram from Army Corps. what the hell are you doing in there? And it's like, well, no, I'm okay. Well, in the past, and when I was out at FSA for compliance, I'd see this. NRCS would say one thing, and then Army Corps would come in and say another. And Army Corps goes, well, we don't, wetland's a wetland. It doesn't matter whether it's farm wetland or prior converted, it's a wetland.
Wrong.
Well, it
according to USDA,
right,
it's wrong.
USDA, but Army Corps. So now we got a jurisdictional question. So in this new iteration of working together and what the waters of the U.S. are, the only thing good so far that I've seen out of this is that Army Corps will take the delineation from NRCS and USDA on agricultural lands. So now all of a sudden, prior converted and farm wetlands are going to hold until it changes use. So you sell that piece of ground, and so Nebraska and Kansas, that might work really well. I still think you're going to have problems with the waters of the U.S. and what's a jurisdictional water and what's not, right, for Army Corps.
Yeah, because I'm so until it changes, does that change like what the ground's used for, or when it changes hands, as in it gets sold?
No,
property gets sold.
So what it's used for. So that's why we're Nebraska and Kansas. I'm very generalizing very much here, but probably not putting in track housing, right?
Correct.
General.
Yeah.
Very general.
Theoretically.
McHenry County, okay, all of a sudden this could be kind of a problem. And not so much a problem as it is a new hurdle. So I have a piece of farm ground in McHenry County that works, but now all of a sudden I got a national home builder that wants to come in and put track housing. What would be prior converted wetlands is no longer going to be considered prior converted wetlands.
I'm picking up what you're laying down now.
It's moving from the use from agricultural production to something else, right? So whether it's residential houses, commercial, whatever.
Landfill, whatever the case may be.
So now all of a sudden you got to go back and you got to play it goes back. It's all wetlands, and now you're back in Army Corps' lap.
Like, come on.
So now all of a sudden you might have to do some remediation or some mitigation, or the new thing that's kind of, I don't know, flavor of the day hot is the
flavor of the day hot. I'm gonna have to remember that. That's hilarious.
Is the wetland bank stuff, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fill this wetland in here, and I'm gonna basically pay to have something else dumped back into a wetland.
Gotcha.
So, and there's rules and regulations on wetland banks and how they're manufactured and whatnot, but okay, so now I can do it here. It's okay. I just have to pay for it somewhere else, right? So it's like on your ComEd bill, right? If you want green energy, well, you're not actually getting green energy out here, right? Because it's probably not coming on the grid that close to you, but it makes you feel good. You've paid for it somewhere. You paid a premium. It's the same thing.
Makes sense now.
So I can fill this to build a mall out here in Elmhurst or wherever, and then somebody out, somewhere else within jurisdiction will flood
what
something else.
What a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, and we can talk about it, and not necessarily politically, but the environmental stuff is. I mean, that's where the heaviest regulation is coming down the pipe.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think you, as farmers, you guys see it when you take your chemical application, yep. and on the labels of the chemicals, on how much you can use per acre, or how many pounds, or whatever the case may be. That's all for that.
Yep.
So it makes a lot of sense that these laws are coming into play now to protect the environment. Especially the wetland side of it.
Well, and so a lot of these conferences that I go to, you start hearing from non-farmers, right, that are then, and this is, same thing, I'm sitting in that room, right? I'm a farmer on one side, and I'm an attorney on the other. So
I'm wearing both hats here. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. So then they start talking about water quality, fertilizer runoff, sedimentation. And then we start talking about carbon credits and, and then we talk about, natural waterways. You can't cut them and put them straight. We talk about all these things. And at the end of the day, you're like, we really want the same thing, but not for the same reason.
Exactly.
But don't tell me how to do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, we watch our P's and Q's.
Well,
as farmers, we have to.
Well, yeah.
Because if you over apply, costs too much damn money to over apply.
Right.
So we're looking at it like, oh, gee, if we over apply this 20, 30, 40, 50 acres, depending on our size. Now, when you get into the bigger guys, you over apply a 300-acre field, it's like, oh, man, that just hit the pocketbook really hard.
Right.
So we have to regulate ourselves to a point because it's too expensive if we get above that.
Well, and to your point, I always get, so especially in Iowa, right, they get talking about the water quality. So they had a lawsuit for a while in the Des Moines lobe. So the center of the state is glacial.
Yeah,
glacial made.
Correct.
Thing. So the state of Iowa was a swamp and a wetland. And when the state became a state and they started doing land grants, they were paying people to tile it. Drain it. Let's farm it. Get done with it. Well, now we've kind of gone back the other way. So now you got all these upland, let's call them upland farms, and they were getting lawsuits from the Des Moines, I think it was the Des Moines Water, whatever their commission was, that they were polluting and causing the water company to have to take out more nitrites out of their water. And they said, well, it's you guys. And we've heard the same thing here. I mean, in the, because of where we're located at, our water all ends up in the Gulf.
Oh, yeah. It all goes to the Mississippi River, and then from there
and the algae bloom, and it's all bad farmers, and you guys are awful, right, and all this. Well, when you pay to put down 180 pounds of nitrogen or units, where do you want that to go?
In the rut.
Right. I don't want it to end up down in the Gulf feeding
I don't want
algae.
it to go through the ground and into the underwater water table to take us. I don't want it to go there.
Right.
I want it to go into the root of that plant so it can make a big damn cob. That's what I want.
Right. Put on that weight. Get in that truck.
Exactly.
And get in the bin. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been an ongoing discussion locally is, okay, so how do I keep that in my ground? Well, I don't want it to run off. So one thing that we've talked about, and especially here, and I don't, it's probably larger than just here, but I feel like in this area in northeastern Illinois, we've had a hard time with drainage. And I call it the sins of our fathers, right? So I represent a bunch of these a couple of these drainage districts. There used to be 56, I think, in McHenry County at one point. And it was kind of a consolidation of landowners that would put in main tiles or ditches in those local watersheds.
So when all the runoff comes from the fields, they can go into these ditches or these tiles and run a certain direction in a certain way.
Right. And they end up in the Kish, right?
Usually.
I mean, in McHenry County, that's
usually where
we're
everything
headed.
goes. Yeah.
So over time, we've gotten down to where we got 3. So, and
they are starting to try to bring that back around here, though.
Yeah.
At least over the last couple of years, I think I've heard some him and hawing around that they're contemplating on bringing some of that stuff back.
So we just reactivated one in Riley Township.
Okay.
So the Coon Creek Drainage District. I'm the attorney that did that work and got it reactivated.
Hey, good work. Good work.
So the hope is that you can do more of them, and then you have these mains. So these drainage districts were all put in between probably 1885 and about 1930.
Long time ago. 100 years ago.
Right. So and they were either ditched and cut or they were clay mains. And there's one that's got a 36-inch clay main on it. That's a drainage district. And if you leave it alone, if it's on private land, well, now the private landowner's got to take care of it if it blows out. But the problem is if he doesn't maintain it, doesn't take care of it, there's about 900 acres that all drains through this.
That goes to it.
Right.
Yeah.
We got one, that Coon Creek one it's Boone and McHenry County part in that watershed. And I think it's 6,000 or 7,000 acres that all drains through that drainage district. And there's more that actually drains through it. Right. So, what happens when these ditches and mains aren't maintained? So, a little off topic here, but what happened was that they did all this drainage back then. And then the war hit, and the drainage was still working, and everybody's good. Then the farm economy takes a hit, right?
Yep.
And it works. It's working. Don't worry about it. We're not going to spend any extra money. You know how it goes, right? I mean, we've got that around here, too, with some of our tree lines. You look back at the 1939 aerials, our home farm is a great one to look at. There's a couple of big oak trees and some pastures and that kind of stuff, but it's farmed.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at it today, it is a wooded mess. And I'm not a hunter. I'm a farmer. I'm not a hunter. My brother tells me, leave the trees, you know. That's where the deer live. But, you know, you look at it, and it just hadn't been maintained. Well, the same thing has happened with our drainage.
Yeah.
So now you've got guys our age, farmers our age, that are trying to make it better, right? I'm trying to cut my tree lines back. I'm trying to maintain my ditches. I'm trying to put in my tile. And if you're putting new tile on those old systems, I mean, it just wasn't, there might not be enough capacity, right?
Well, the old systems might not have enough capacity compared to putting in the new plastic tile or whatever you're doing to drain additional land.
Right.
Those, especially the clay ones, they might not be big enough.
Well, and even if you're not tying into those tile lines, where do we outlet? We all outlet in ditches, creeks, you know, streams, right? That's where your tile outlet's got to go. You can't put it in the roadway, so you got to put it where the water goes. Well, if we haven't been maintaining those outlets, right, that actually carry the water, we can pump all the water we want in there.
And it ain't gonna matter.
Right. It backs up over the top of the tile, and then you're all sitting there anyway.
Yep.
So, you know, as we try and maintain these, right, so we've been pushing to be able to maintain them and make up for the sins of our fathers, right, from the lack of maintenance. And that's not to say that they haven't, but it needs to be done. And one of the things that we've talked about that I think agriculture is really pushing for is side casting, berms. It makes more sense to me to put a little bit of soil along the edge of that creek line or ditch line and force all that water to go down through the field, through our tile systems, which we're maintaining and installing, right? Hoping that any of that fertilizer that we're putting on that we want to keep is going to be tied up in the soil instead of
running off.
Right, running off the top.
Yep.
Right? So instead, if you look, I mean, you look around here in the fall time, right? How many of these under bridges and stuff are full of corn stalks?
A lot.
That's from overland runoff.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we stop that?
Especially if we get a lot of rain
Right.
or whatever the case may be, because that's what's going to push all that stuff into the creek lines and then down through your culverts or your underneath your bridges or whatever the case, whatever may happen at that point.
Right. And that's where agriculture, we want to stop that. I mean, even that stover is going to have fertilizer value.
Yeah.
Right. We paid to make it. We should keep it.
Theoretically,
right?
That's the goal.
So it's how do we do that? And I think we've seen a push, buffer strips and, like I said, that berming, increased tile to where you're actually got the capacity in your soil to take that water.
Agreed.
Rather than have it just run off over land, So, and that's one where again, I guess we talked about it before, but I know what needs to be done and I will do it. Get out of my way, get rid of the red tape, and I will fix the problem.
Yeah. Yes, you're correct. The problem is somebody that is going to say, okay, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the red tape. Kyle, we're going to go ahead and get rid of all that red tape for you. And then I'm going to go and take complete advantage because that red tape's not there.
Right.
That's the problem that we run into. It's not the people like you or I that would do the right thing.
Right.
It's the people that won't do the right thing. And then what do you do?
So
that's where you have to have that red tape there, unfortunately.
So, and I guess it's what's the cost of freedom, right? So the freedom to be able to run my business and run my operation, take care of my ground and
Agreed.
all the things we do. And I mean, that goes into so many things, right? I mean,
oh yeah.
Just to throw out an example that we won't go any further with, but this gun regulation that we've got coming down the pike, right? What's the cost of the freedom, right? So,
yeah, we a couple podcasts ago we sat down and had a really hard
in-depth conversation.
Yeah, we had a really in-depth conversation. Somebody that knew the law a lot more than I did, and because I don't get, I understand why they think they need to make that law. Okay. They think if we have 10 round mags or less, there will be less deaths in a mass shooting. At least that's the way they're thinking.
Right.
At least that's the way I'm thinking they're thinking. Okay. Right. But what people don't realize is, okay, I'll just buy another one.
Yeah.
And I'll keep that in my pocket.
2 motions.
And then I'll buy another one and I'll keep that one in my pocket and I'll buy another one. You're accomplishing that. The only thing you're accomplishing is that you have to go click, snap, cock. Mm-hmm. And when you do that and you practice it and you do it well, it's one bullet.
Right. I know. And again, I think that is a situation just like what I run into with agriculture. It's people that don't know. Right?
Agreed.
That are making the laws.
Well, and the big thing is the difference between that particular law and agriculture. There's a lot less people in agriculture. There's a lot more people that own firearms in this world that know anything about agriculture.
Oh, we can go here. Okay. So
look at you get all excited. You were like, oh man, we got to talk about, okay, we're going to talk about this, but I got to go to the bathroom. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll remind where we're at, though.
Okay.
This podcast episode is sponsored by Dan's Diesel Performance. If you're looking to improve your truck's performance, efficiency, or appearance, check out Dan's Diesel Performance. They manufacture turbochargers, fuel injectors, fuel pumps, transmissions, intake piping, and much, much more. Plus, they offer all the top brands in the diesel industry. They're located in Machesney Park, Illinois. Visit their website at dansdieselperformance.com or give them a call at 815-977-5865. So I had to interrupt because I had to relieve some pressure.
That's all right.
And so we're back, and we were talking about how there are far more firearm owners than people that are in farming, and you got all giddy and excited.
Well,
so let's get back to that topic because I want to see you more giddy and excited.
So another hat that I wear, right? So attorney, farmer, various boards and whatnot, but I'm also involved in local politics. And again, that's that Hillsdale thing coming through again.
So what do you mean by local politics? Like, are you running for mayor somewhere that I need to know about, or
no? So I was the chairman of the Republican Party here in McHenry County.
I didn't know that. I guess
for 2 years. Now I'm the vice chair of the party.
Holy cow! You're just climbing up the ranks.
Well, I moved down a step, but that was okay because I needed, with all the different hats, I needed a little more of my own time. So, and it's great. You meet a lot of good people, and it's rewarding when you can help try and make your community better.
Cool.
So countywide, I guess, is where my reach is. I've had some experience and opportunities to talk to federal legislators when they were running. Last time around, Darren LaHood, who's now our new, based on the new, right? I got to meet him and have lunch with him, and that was an interesting opportunity because he sits on the ag committee. So, got to sit down and job about farming for a little bit. So I'm all happy about that. But anyway, so as far as local goes, so county board and those kind of things. So, but what made me excited was your analogy. There's a lot more firearms owners than agricultural owners. And to take that further, it's, okay, those rights are going to be further protected because there's more people vigilant because it affects more people. When you get right down to it, the percentage of people that are farmers is pretty minimal.
It's very minimal. It's very minimal. Really, the people that are involved in agriculture,
that was
very minimal,
right? So even if the support industries, right, still,
you're talking chemical companies and seed companies and like tractor companies and dealerships and things like that. It's still very minimal.
Still a small percentage, right? And that's on a national scale. Now here in McHenry County, and this is a point that I've been driving home, is
we have a lot
between agriculture and farming and all their support. It's still the largest industry in the county.
Oh, I can believe that in a heartbeat.
Oh, it is. And so at the end of the day, we need to act like it.
And
we're the economic driver in the county.
And to further your point, it's not just grain farming. It's not just soybeans and corn and wheat. It's the vegetable farmers that we have. It's the
Christmas trees.
The Christmas trees, the dairy farmers, the goat farmers, the beef cattle, the hog operations. And then you start thinking about, they all got to have feed for their animals. They all got to have seed to put in the ground. They got to have fuel and oil. And we got these tractor dealerships, whether it's John Deere or Case or I think B&K just closed, by the way. I just seen that on the Facebook here the other day.
You have to go out west and get your Alice guys.
Well, but you start looking at just McHenry County and what we are. We have a ton of agricultural business. And then you look at just our little town.
Yeah.
Our little town was founded by agriculture. And it still is got agriculture. It's just there's definitely other companies now that are coming in and taking advantage of the agricultural community that we have here in a good way, not in a bad way, in a good way. Right.
Well, let's put a pin in that one because we can talk about the changing landscape of small town America. But the point I was going to make was that when you look at any election, any election, right?
Pick one.
Federal, state, county, local.
Yep.
It doesn't come out to be, I'm just going to say, it doesn't come out to be black versus white. It doesn't turn out to be men versus women. It doesn't turn out to be income brackets. It comes down to rural versus urban.
Yep.
When you look at the maps and you look at how people vote and you look at the policies that they then want in the future, it's rural versus urban.
Mm-hmm. It always has been.
Yeah. And when you base your elections off of a popular vote, you're going to get the urban all day long. That's why in Illinois, you get the Chicago draw. When you look at Iowa, it is Iowa City, Cedar Falls, Cedar Rapids, Des Moines.
Well, it's not that hard to look at just our country map.
Yep.
When you start thinking about who votes for president of the United States, it's pretty easy to figure that out on whether it's rural or urban, because blue is usually all the big cities and red is usually everywhere else.
Yep.
Whether that's right, wrong, or not. That's the way that is. And then if you break that down into like counties, okay, well, we know where a lot of the blue is going to be in this county, right?
Yep.
It's not going to be where we're at. It's going to be a little bit further east, maybe a little further south too. That's where that's going to happen. That is the way that it is.
Right. And so what that turns out to mean as far as agriculture, right? So let's take the politics back out of it. Agriculture has to do the best at education. We have to, as an industry, and I don't mean just the Pork Producers Association and the Corn Growers Association. We as agriculture, as farmers, as support, we need to talk to these people that are going to represent us, even if they don't necessarily represent our area. So because of the opportunity of meeting these folks through being involved in politics,
you have
right?
had.
We do combine rides. I invite guys out. I'm like, you want to come out and ride in the combine? Go for it. So this last round, where we had a candidate that was running for sheriff, our new sheriff in McHenry County, Rob Tatelman. He's from Algonquin or Lake in the Hills. And I said, Rob, how much you know about agriculture? Blank stare.
Well, okay. Let me. I'm going to interrupt you for just a quick second because you don't have to get to Algonquin or Lake in the Hills to ask people about what they know about farming. I had a conversation with somebody not very long ago. Was from the great town of Chemung.
Oh no!
And didn't know a whole lot about farming, which surprised me.
Right.
By this specific individual, I was like, "Wait a minute, really? You don't know the difference between a combine and a tractor? You've lived in Chemung like your whole life, and
which has an elevator on both sides.
Both sides of the town,
sandwich.
Like it just when you said, "Oh yeah, well he's from Lake in the Hills or he's from Algonquin," I was like, "That doesn't matter. It really doesn't. If it's no different than I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know jack shit about being a lawyer. And you don't work for a township, so you don't know jack shit about a township.
Nope.
But these people are the same way. If people don't know about agriculture, they don't know anything about agriculture.
Yeah.
It is like you either know about it or you don't. There's very few people that can know a little bit or know enough to be in trouble, to get them in trouble or whatever. It's either all or nothing.
Well, and it the quintessential example is always, where's your food come from, right? The grocery store.
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know.
Right. But the thing is, that's such a far out there, extreme example. But it's all the little stuff.
It's all a true example, though.
It is, and it is. So we had this Rob Tatelman, who was then running for sheriff, now sheriff. I said, come out and ride in the combine. So he rode with me for probably an hour. And then he rode with my brother in the grain cart. And, we're all talking about agriculture and the things we go on. So we still combine with a 6-row head. And I said, look how big this is. 6 rows. It's big, right? But we leave the head on to move. So I said, let's go down the road. I said, you're sitting up here. I said, what can you see? He goes, not much. I said, right. I said, now put this on the road at 22 miles an hour. And
or put it on the road, period. It doesn't matter what speed.
Period, right? And I said, you know what all these roads look like around here and the drivers and stuff? And he goes, your job's tough. I said, okay. You're starting to think about it, right? Okay. So, and then...
He's at least putting himself in your shoes.
Right. So then, we don't have scales on our trucks. We don't have scales on our grain cart. My combine doesn't have a scale.
You'll never be overloaded. It's okay.
And yeah, exactly. You know how it goes. 2 loads that look exactly the same could be very different.
Can be very different.
So
stupid test weight.
So he then rode with my dad, and
in the truck,
and took it over to DeLong's. So, and wouldn't you know it, those 2 loads were very different, and one was heavy, and one was light. Okay, so on the way back, they had a conversation. Did you feel anything different? I mean, you're riding in the seat right next to me. You should be able to tell. No. You go, it just lumbers along. Okay. That's the point. Oh. So, it's, but before, I handle some overweight tickets and stuff, and especially in the fall, you get these scale tickets and you're like, oh, how did they even?
Just a bit outside.
Yeah, right. And how did they even give you a hard time on this? Because as a farmer, you're like, oh, you're fine.
Let her go.
Is it spilling off the sides? No, oh, fine, you're good.
Let her eat.
So, it's that kind of an understanding about what goes on in agriculture and what does that look like. And so the more that, and I had another instance where we took a couple of individuals out that didn't know anything about agriculture, and we took them to see tile and ditching work. Okay, this is what we do. This hasn't been done yet. Look at that. Okay, now look at this. And what do you think? And we had a good conversation about why we do it, what we're doing, how we're trying to do it. And all of a sudden, now you got people thinking about drainage that had no idea it even existed. You know what I mean? So that's where, as agriculture, we need to take it to them and lay it out in front of them and go, we're willing, if you want to know, this is what
we're willing to we're willing to teach. We're willing to talk about it. We're willing to inform you all the things that we do on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis.
Right.
You have to have an open mind now. If you're going to come in closed-minded, thinking that you know what agriculture is and everything else, don't come, because you're going to be wasting your time. You're going to be wasting our time.
Right.
But if you really want an understanding of how it works, call us.
We're happy.
Stop on by.
Yeah.
You see a tractor sitting outside somebody's shop, pull in, have a conversation.
Let's talk.
Guarantee you, well, I shouldn't say every farmer, but there's a lot of them out there that'll have a nice conversation with you.
And out here in the rural, it always helps if you let them know you're coming.
That too. A cold call don't always usually work that way, but
who the hell are you?
Get off my yard.
I'm from the government. I'm here to help. It doesn't go over well.
No.
So,
I think it's been that way for a long time.
I think so too. And I think it's just becoming more and more evident. As I think that rural versus urban culture shifts.
Yeah, and it's not always a bad thing, right?
No.
I mean, I don't mind learning about what what different rules and regulations they got to have in more populated areas. I understand that. Before you brought up the Army Corps of Engineers, I know that when you get into Chicago, they have to be there. They do. They have to be there to say, oh, you're going to put this 60,000 square foot building up. Okay.
Where's your water?
Where's your water going? Because are you going to flood out the mom and pop muffler shop that's next door? You can't do that. So you got to figure that out. But when you get out here in the boonies,
so yeah,
you're the only neighbor you're going to flood out is if you put a 60,000 square foot, building up. But other than that, if you're going to put up a 100 by 100 shop or a 60 by 80 shop or whatever the case may be.
On your 40-acre parcel, the only guy you're going to flood is your 40-acre
exactly.
parcel.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's what I was working at with it, But so I can understand both sides of it. I really can. I don't like it, but I can understand it.
Well, so and that's been a conversation I've been having about McHenry County. There's 2 counties within McHenry County, really. There's an east and a west.
Oh, I can totally believe that.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, you have that more suburban feel in eastern McHenry County, and then 47 is just easy, right? But you still get that north strip, Spring Grove and Richmond and Hebron, right, that are east of 47, but really should be in the agricultural landing.
Yeah, it's more like the south
east corner. Yes, I know. You got it. Not that we're labeling anybody.
Yeah, no, I'm not labeling anybody down that way. I'm just,
But it's a very
drawing a map out for you.
And it's definitely more residential, more commercial, not as much agriculture. And so, yeah, it makes more sense to have stormwater ordinances that are a little
that should be available there.
Right?
I don't disagree with any of that.
And then, but you get out here in the boonies, and
it's the same rules that apply out here.
Yeah.
And I look at that and go, why should the same rules apply out here when you can't build on anything less than 40 acres, but in there you can build a 60,000 square foot building on 4 acres.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Quarter-acre lots, right? Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I understand, like I said, I understand why it's there, but can we use some common sense?
Well, that's it. If we could put common sense back in government, we would all be great.
Come on, get after it. Use that awesome law degree you got. Make some shit happen.
Well,
Kyle, it doesn't work that way. Thank you.
But that's the goal. We keep working at it, and I'm fairly new at it, but I don't think that the law practice is just that we're solving people's problems. I mean, we are, but okay, what's a systemic problem of that problem?
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And you got a long time to be a lawyer, so you can
knock on wood.
You can work on that just a little bit every year, and you never know where that might get you.
That's right.
That's right. We better wrap this thing up because we've been talking quite a long time now.
Well, I appreciate you having me on here.
Thanks for coming out. I appreciate you coming. Great. This has been a blast. Yeah. We'll have to do this again.
I'd be more than happy.
Wonderful. Thanks for coming, Tyler.
Thanks, guys.